Before we actually get started, I did want to go over some of the changes to the normal order of service. So we're gonna do the first part, the vows and chanting, as we normally would. Um, but instead of going into the meditation, what we're gonna do is I'm going to go through the sort of Dharma talk and go through a little bit of the list. Not gonna go through all 108. And then we'll go out and ring the bell 108 times. So, 108, and it's what, 27 rings a piece, give or take? It'll be fun. And then we'll come back in and do Sangha time or fellowship, making us a little bit of a fruit salad.
Sure.
So, let's go and get started then. And again, if there's any part of the service that is not part of your tradition, don't feel like you have to participate. If you're not comfortable with it, we don't force anybody to do anything. If there are any who would like to offer a chant from their tradition. Seeing none, we'll move right along. And you may go ahead and be seated. This will be the Dharma reading and Dharma talk. So, we have us a big old long list here. A very long list. Before I get into the list itself, I should probably talk a little bit about where it comes from. Scholars are still divided as to whether or not there is actually supposed to be 108, what it means. There are a number of different systems of categorizations. Usually it's 3 times 2 times 3 times 2 times 3 until you get 108. Realistically, I think we can kind of boil it down to 108 is a nice little specific number. It's a good number. You can think of it as a number which is not so big that you can't tackle it, but not so small that you can leave it alone either, right? So yes, there's a lot of things on this list. Yes, there are a lot of things that, we may need to open the door a little bit, if that's okay. I think there should be a little stopper. There we go. Perfect. It's not such a huge list that you can't do anything about it, but at the same time, it's not so small that you can just leave it alone. It's not like, oh, hey, I don't have to worry about that. It's just like 2 things, whatever. I'll do those tomorrow. But it's also not, 10,050 or something like that, where you would sit there and say, I can't do any of that. Nope, not happening. So it hits that nice little sweet spot where it's a memorable number. It's small, but not too small. Big, but not too big. And a lot of these things, these are ways that we let ourselves down over the course of the year. And some of them, like I've mentioned before, are a little bit more important than others. Things like indifference, for example, is a whole lot less important in the grand scheme of things than, say, greed or torment or deception or tyranny, right? And we all have the capacity to do these things. These are mental actions that we can manifest through what we do, right? And these are the things that we should not be doing. These are the things that we should deliberately be trying to, as best we can, avoid, right? Now, some of them are going to be a little bit easier than others to deal with, right? So things like intolerance can be dealt with fairly simply, right? By means of tolerance, right? And a lot of these have that kind of opposite relationship where if you look at it and you say, okay, this is what not to do, then you flip it around and say, okay, well, maybe I should do the opposite of it. Sadism, you definitely don't want to do, right? You want to do the opposite, right? You don't want to take pleasure in other people's pain. You want to have compassion instead, right? Gluttony, that one's fairly simple too, right? You don't eat way too much that you don't need to be eating, right? So instead, you measure what you're eating, right? You eat what you need, but you don't go overboard with it. So a lot of these are really ways that we let ourselves down, ways that we can fail ourselves, that we don't have to, things that we can do in our lives if we're paying attention, if we're being aware, right? And that's really the key here. That's really the key with most of what we talk about in Buddhism. Awareness is absolutely key, right? Being aware of what you're doing helps you to not do the wrong thing, helps you to do the right thing, right? Because you have built up, when you are aware, you build up this kind of like, I don't want to call it purity, but maybe that makes sense. But you build up this awareness, you build up this solid ground from which to work, right? That you don't have if you're not aware, right? If you're unaware, you'll wander outside and trip over all the rocks and probably, fall down, skin your knees, whatever. But if you are aware, you can sit there and deliberately make choices as to what steps you're taking, what steps you're not taking, and you can make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're staying upright. Right? You're not falling over, you're not tripping over rocks that you don't have to trip over. So the whole key here, awareness. Right? Being aware of all of these things that realistically, most of us do a bunch of these on a day-to-day basis. Even if we're not trying, even if we're really just not being aware, right? It's really easy to be disrespectful. It's really easy to lie. It's really easy to have pride, to have a little self-hatred, to have a little vanity, right? It's really easy to have these because we're not even looking at it. We're not even trying. We're not even aware of it. But when we are aware, we can start to say, maybe that's something I don't need to do. Because what does it do for myself? Not good things. What does it do for others? Not good things. Is it therefore good to not do it? Sure, right? We build that awareness, we start doing the right things, we stop doing the wrong things, right? And so that's one of the main reasons why every New Year's, we bust out this list, and we go out and we bust out the bell, and we start ringing that bell like nothing else, right? And the bell that I have is, I think it was listed on the packaging as 20 pounds, but it's actually more like 20 kilos. It's a big solid bell. So you don't feel bad if you ring it real hard. I'm totally okay with that. And part of that is, as we ring the bell, we are inviting that awareness of these things, right? We are inviting that awareness so that as we're going about our day-to-day life, we start to do things a better way, right? So, I think I've probably talked this piece to death. Let's go out and ring some bells. And for the audience at home, we are not going to record the ringing of the bell because, let's be honest, the sound is going to kill us all, so. We'll talk to you guys later.